For the meeting for the Community Relations Committee, regular meeting. The time is 6:30. It's Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. I'll do the call of order. Andra, Councilor Ingalls.
Here.
Councilor Psalms.
Here.
And for the record, I want it to be known that Councilor McGrattan is here, as is Councilor Sibilia.
And resident Rebecca Gravener.
Going through my little list. Thank you. And resident Rebecca Gravener. It'll be a little slow. Time to say write all this stuff down right. And for the record, Mayor Fred Allen III is here. I think that covers Roxanne Marr, admin for on council. Okay, this time I'd like to open up for citizen comments. Seeing there's none.
No.
Sorry.
Rebecca raised her hand.
Sorry. I was listening, not looking. Sorry,
You need to do like jumping jacks, Rebecca.
Actually, it's fortuitous that the mayor is here because actually my question is really for the mayor. Several weeks ago, I know that the mayor met with the tribal chairman, Rodney Butler, and then there was, at that time, he mentioned that there were going to be further conversations discussing social services to tribal members and figuring out that relationship. I have looked through notes. I wasn't able to attend town council meetings where you give a report. And I've looked through notes and maybe I've missed it, but I was wondering what that update is about those further meetings and what sort of tribal services are going to be offered. I think that is a huge part of what this committee's work could and should be. So I'd be really interested to hear what that movement is. And just again, following up on my email regarding communication, I think that if there's just some way that you all can use social media in some manner to facilitate better conversation, it is our reality, whether we like it or not. And I think that especially for people that you indicate that you want to communicate with, this may be the only way that we get to hear what is really happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Mike, I'm happy to answer if you would allow.
Thank you. Please do, Mayor.
Sure. So to Rebecca's point, yes, we did have a meeting. The Tribal Council and Chairman Butler and myself met. We went over what social services they have, which basically mirror what the town of Ledyard Social Services has, including a food pantry. And the holiday gift baskets and energy assistance, and essentially everything that we do, they do too. So what we were operating under was an agreement dating back to Mayor Mendenhall's tenure in Ledyard, where they had a meeting with the Tribal Council and then Chairman Michael Thomas. And the agreement that came out of that meeting was that if Mashantucket tribal members were to come to the town of Ledyard, that then Chairman Thomas asked that they be directed back to the tribe. So that's what we were operating on. Mayor Rodolico had a later meeting with Rodney Butler at that point, Chairman Butler, and Mayor Rodolico's belief at the time was the exact same as Mayor Mendenhall. We then had the meeting, as I said, with Chairman Butler and the Tribal Council. Their feeling was that that wasn't exactly what they meant, that maybe there was some misinterpretation or whatnot, but that the idea was that they do have a social service director and that the first point of contact would be the tribal social service director. And if they couldn't fulfill the needs, that the town of Ledyard certainly would. So what we had agreed to was that tribal members that live on taxable property within the town of Ledyard qualify for our services. But those that live on the reservation or non-taxable residential properties off the reservation, Coachman's Pike, Fanning Road, a number of Shoeville have those properties, that they would be directed to the tribe for that assistance. They don't have any limitations on their food pantry needs. It's just come and take whatever you need. So it was a good meeting. We had it up at the Tribal Pequot Museum, and we had a good discussion out of it. I think there was a lot of misinformation that was flying around before that. The food drive for the indigenous peoples of Ledyard was, I think, part of that misinformation that was broadcast. It wasn't. Because Chairman Butler was very clear with me. He said he received a call from somebody from that group, and he said, we are not interested in the food, because that's not an issue. So again, I say, I think there was some misinformation there, and that came directly from Rodney's mouth. So I do welcome discussions with you and with the tribe. I would just ask that we have, accurate, factual information that we're working with. The writers of that letter that were put out there never once communicated with me. So had you done that, and you're talking about congenial communication, that would have been very helpful. So that's where we stand. We do have good open relationships and discussions with the tribe, but that's where we are.
Thank you, Mayor. Next order of business, review and approve of minutes from the special meeting of August 5th, 2020. Do I have a motion on the floor to approve?
So moved.
Coun-
Second.
Counselor Psalm second.
Take your pick.
Councilor Ingalls with the motion and Councilor Psalms with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion.
Counselor Psalm says aye.
Yes. Now on to the meat and potatoes. Continued discussion and possible action on the draft Community Relations Committee mission statement. Councilor Psalms said, as at the last meeting, had been gracious enough to post up on the board and provide a copy of what we had talked about. And it should have been in the packet, if I'm correct.
It is.
So this time, let's kind of just. Did anybody? I had a couple change. I reviewed it and just giving my position on my review of the mission statement portion. And then we have the portion starting out with the Ledyard Town Council's committee relations. Is the point of redress for the residents. That paragraph, and then the second paragraph being to engage the community in active listening of others' experiences, perspectives, foster meaningful dialogue to build awareness of racial, cultural. Those are two different mission statements, I believe. And with that, after going through, my perspective was that the second one was more in line with what I think our goal would be. With the only difference in that I should post what I had. I'm not that good with the computer here.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mike, I would be happy to serve as scribe again, and do that by sharing the document. If you guys want to comment, I'll make the changes as you talk.
That would be greatly appreciated, Councilor Psalms.
Okay. All right. Let me do that. So you can see that I also made some changes myself. I saw the same thing you did. So we can do anything to this that we want. So can you guys see it okay?
Yes.
Okay.
My take on this was the third paragraph where we talk about ensure that all people in ledger are treated fairly, which is in essence the third paragraph you have here. I was thinking about combining that into the second paragraph in the sense of, and this reads through, it recommends solutions to the town council to redress institutional injustices. And then after injustices, I had to ensure all people in the town of Ledyard are welcome, treated fairly and equally with dignity, and have access to the same opportunities for quality of life.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to undo my changes.
Yep. It's just,
Whoops, too many. Okay, let me go back up again. All right. So ensure all people in Ledyard are welcome.
are welcome.
Yep.
Treated fairly, equally, with dignity. With dignity, and have access to the same opportunities for quality of life.
Okay.
And I was inserting that right after in the second paragraph, injustices, right after injustices, two, I'd add the word two after injustices. So instead of in, it'd be the word two.
So after institutional injustices, put the word to.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and then delete this.
Delete that and insert that.
Does that look right?
Yes. Not too sure that all people. Yes. I thought that would encompass the third paragraph by
Yeah, because we had a lot of redundancy there.
yes, and in the town, okay, all the people in the town of Ledyard, sorry, ensure that all people in the town, bear with me for, yep, in the town of Ledyard.
Okay.
Are welcome and treated fairly. And the first paragraph, and we'd use the word redress. I think I'd thrown out there before, and the problem I'm having after I read that one, it fits better in the second paragraph, the word redress, because the redress is something we can't do it. We can't do that at the committee level. It's got to be down at the town council level. If there's something that needs to be redressed. And so I don't know if that would be the appropriate place to have that verbiage. And so even in that, if we keep the first paragraph, but keep in mind, this is just me going off on my own here. Keeping that first paragraph, it would have been the Ledyard Town Council's Community Relations Committee, CRC, is a point of contact for residents encountering institutional. So I was having trouble figuring out how to word that.
Yeah, redress sounds like a court.
Correct.
So it's a good word, but it's been bothering me because it sounds very intimidating.
Yes. So I'm not sure if, councilors, if you guys want to keep that first paragraph at all, because I'm really loving the second one.
So I would take out the second sentence in the first paragraph.
The committee is charged.
And we might want to keep the part about forwarding recommendations to the council, but the rest of it we've already said.
Okay.
So let me do it and we can undo it if you want. And there's recommending right there.
Perfect.
So Andra's been quiet.
I'm playing with a thesaurus. I want to
Okay.
see what else comes up if I put redress into a thesaurus.
Yeah.
And having two computers open is making everything go slow on my end. But there's something that's bothering me, and it's my very practical interpretation of ensuring that all people in Ledyard are treated fairly, equally, and have access to the same opportunities for quality of life. I don't know. I think I mentioned this last time.
You did.
Facilitate?
So it is, I think it's a practical impossibility for us to actually ensure that everyone has the same opportunities for quality of life. It sounds wonderful. It's something we all long for, but starting at the youngest age, we cannot control what goes on in people's homes. Children are going to have different experiences. Adults we just are. So I just, even though I think it's a worthy goal, I actually wonder if we're setting ourselves up for,
Yeah.
constant frustration and perhaps even, if we put are we setting ourselves up for legal problems? Like somebody's going to come back and say, hey, I didn't have that opportunity.
Well, I could say I like my neighbor's house better than mine, so I would like equal opportunity to access that house. So I do think we need to change it. And I think what we really are trying to do is to make sure that everyone has equal access to the services offered by the town and is treated fairly.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, if we could
Yes.
capture that language, I would feel much better about it. And honestly, like, you know what? I have 4 children. One of the things I taught them is you will not always be treated fairly. Like, so that's part of your emotional skill set as a human being.
Mhm.
Is learning how to forgive others, learning how to ask for forgiveness. Again, a worthy goal, and we don't ever want a resident to feel they were treated unfairly by something institutional in the town. But if we don't define that language, we cannot ensure that every resident is treated fairly by every other resident. This needs to be narrowed to what is actually the responsibility of the council and this committee.
Yeah.
I hope I'm conveying that well, because I
You
do
are.
think the sentiment is worthy. Okay.
Councilor Ingalls, you're right. You're right on the money. The use of the word ensure is a very slippery slope, because the ability to just, you said it perfectly. I think it goes back to trying to, what we should be able to, as far as equal access, we should be able to ensure equal access, because we control
Agree.
the access. So the things we can control, we can ensure. And I think that says they should have equal access to services. And I don't want to use the word, when I think of the word opportunity, I don't want to use the word opportunities as far as opportunities outside of that which the town provides, but it really is equal opportunity to services and equal treatment in the delivery of services.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The idea of being treated fairly, I think, if you come to the town, I don't think it's an outrageous request to expect to be treated fairly. You're not expecting your neighbor to treat you fairly, but the people that you pay a check to should have some level of responsibility to treat you fairly.
Right. But just to be clear, we volunteer. Don't give anybody the idea that the counselors receive a check.
No. I'm talking about the people who work for the town.
I knew what you meant. I just want to
Yes.
be very clear.
We don't get paid. We do this out of the kindness of our hearts. So I think we can attack that portion. I don't think that's going to be an issue as far as the services and delivery of the services should be done equally and fairly. And fairly, and I know I understand the word fairly, but I think in this case, when you're dealing with the city of the town, it's not unreasonable for somebody to expect to be treated well. What's considered fairly, that becomes a different issue. So maybe equally is just leaving it equally is probably a better choice. You can treat them with dignity. There's no reason, because we're talking about the town services foremost, in my opinion, and not so much the town proper as far as the town residents. That's a different animal that have to be attacked. But this is trying to attack the issues relative to what the town does right now. And hopefully down the road, it can grow to encompass that which is greater than just a town.
Give me a minute here. I just want to look up synonym for insure. Now I can't even see the word insure. Insure, there it is.
I had offered seek in the chat.
Seat?
I'm sorry, Fred, say that again?
Oh, in the chat box, I said, what if you replaced insure with the word seek, S-E-E-K?
Oh.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
Because insure is pretty exacting. It's pretty definitive, 100%. Seeking for that, you can't guarantee it. Insure says you're kind of guaranteeing it. Seeking, to me, says you're making your best efforts to get there, but it doesn't mean you can. You're just going to try.
How would you?
Yeah.
How about the word strive then? If you, because if you, I'm thinking at least if you strive for to accomplish something, there's no guarantee you're going to meet that goal, but it just gives you what your intent is. Let me make sure I get the right word.
Mhm.
Mm. Oh.
Is that better or worse?
I think that's better. And
Okay.
I say it only because I like seek, but the whole idea is we're working toward a goal. So to seek it out, work toward the goal.
We could also say, and to create an environment. Doesn't guarantee, it doesn't ensure, but we want to create an environment.
So it would be to work to create an environment?
Instead of work toward, just say create an environment.
Yeah, but I'm hesitant to use the word create.
Yeah, it's
Because
stronger.
it's stronger than work toward.
Yeah.
because we can always be continuously working toward the goal. Andra?
I think I like it. I think I like it. Work toward. Wait a minute. I think it's good. I just want to be clear that to the point of what we can control and what we can't control, that this is the effort made by the town council.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
I feel like that's clear.
Yeah,
Why don't we stop on this paragraph here and let it percolate for a while and move on? And I say that because we just made a lot of changes, and you know it's hard to follow somebody else typing and as you're thinking and reacting. So
Okay.
if we take it offline and just wordsmith it, work on our own, kind of like we were doing.
Yep.
Just come up with our ideas and come back to the next meeting.
Okay.
Because I think we need to get
I
into
think
the
it's
nuts and
good.
bolts of
Yeah.
what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I
I agree. I think I'd like to let it simmer, but I think I like it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, number 2 for old business. Continue review and discussion of objectives and goals. This one was tougher.
Yeah.
This is tougher. My preference is to tackle one thing for now. I know we listed out 3 possible, but we can hold the in the
So my thought, Mike, I agree. This is really hard. How do you know when you're successful? Who wants to participate in a survey, let alone administer one?
yes.
How do you know which police statistics are the right measures? That's probably easier than a survey. But I put the third one is to ask the kids for their ideas. How will we know if we're successful? And we ask them to tell us.
I had the opportunity to talk. Sorry, Bill.
Oh, go ahead.
I had the opportunity today to talk to my kids. I've been talking to them about this back and forth, and every time I talk to them, and probably the last 5 or 6 times, they tend to come back to one thing, and it's on relative to on the police portion of it and interaction with the town. And it really boiled down to talking to them was the lack of familiarity with the officers. And because of that, it's like anything else, which you don't know, you fear.
Yep.
And when they called out a couple people by name. They called out Officer Olson, and one of my sons, he goes, Officer Olson, he would come by all the soccer games, girls games, boys games. When he was doing his drive-through, you make a point to reach out, talk to the kids all the time. So when you talking to him, he says all the kids know him because he was always coming by and talking to him, engaging him. Even and I'm terrible with names, but my son who plays basketball was out at the park probably just after our last meeting, just shooting hoops, and one of the officers went by and stopped, made some comments about his shots and how he couldn't dunk the ball. This and that. Talked a little bit of trash to him. My son loved it, and it was the first time he had an interaction with the officer, but it was a very positive interaction. It was more of on a personal level versus a business level, and I think that's part of when we look to see how do we measure success? It becomes, I think, how comfortable people are with the officers in general. Because a lot of times they don't get to see them unless something's going wrong.
Yeah, right.
And having lived in town for years and years and years, I can remember in high school, the officers, you'd see them at the football games and basketball games, and they'd always be joking with the students. And one of the themes I got out of my kids was those officers that Ledyard has that makes it a point to go out of their way to joke with the students all the time. The kids all know those officers, and they like those officers. When I ask about other officers, they don't dislike them, but they go, "We don't know them." And they're kids, so they're not going up to talk to them. So what happens is these other officers have been going and talking to them. So I think relative to looking at the police side of it, a measurable goal, I think is from the kids' perspective, is asking the kids or just people in the community down the road. I don't know if it's going to be by survey or general discussion or open meeting or whatever. That ability to become familiar with the officers goes a long way. And if they're familiar with them, they like them, I think that helps the police officers doing their job, and it puts a lot of the younger kids and the older kids, and it feeds up the chain at rest. I know I went long on that. Sorry.
It's okay. Kids want to be known. They want to be recognized. And when an officer does something like that, rather than scare or offend the kid, it usually makes the kid feel noticed and therefore feel known.
Yes.
But most adults are standoffish with kids because they're afraid the kid's going to make fun of them, or they're going to take them the wrong way, or they're not going to like them, or they're going to be afraid of them. The kids want to be noticed.
They do. I'm always amazed at dealing with kids I don't know and talking to them and just going up and chatting, and how quick they relax once you start talking.
Yeah. Right. And they do too. So I was talking loosely when I said ask the kids for their ideas, but I've mentioned this idea of reaching out to the three who spoke at the first protest, Lauren, Mariah, and James. And I've been kicking around this idea of meeting with them, and unfortunately for us, they're all back in school or have graduated. So what I'd like to propose is that we go to them, go to their school, the three of us, go to their school, and we call that a field trip. So we post it, and anybody else is welcome to come, so the public knows where we are and who we're meeting with and what we're doing. But then we can go and meet with them, and we ask them, is this okay with you? We'd have to do it individually, or maybe they'd come to a central point, but we'd ask them, where do you want to meet? What do you want to talk about? And in that conversation, we ask them what they think would show the town and us that we're successful in what we're trying to do.
I'm open to that idea. I think it's easier going back to somewhat of a one-on-one, because if we post it as a meeting and you got to post it, I'm not sure where they're going to school at, if they're local.
Yeah.
Or,
well,
so that would have
one goes to Eastern and one is at UConn. And I think the other has graduated, and I don't know where she is, but we can find out.
Okay. I'm not averse to that.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, good. So we'd have to do it outside to be safe, and I'd want them to choose the location, let them choose the meal, let them decide who pays for it, and if they say, we want you guys to buy us lunch, then that's what we do. If they say, we'll all bring something, or let's all go and we'll pay for, we each pay for our own, whatever they want to do, it should be their idea, their turf.
I'm very much open to that idea. And then,
okay.
With that being said, I wonder on the high school level, because you've got kids now that are seniors at Ledyard, but I don't know if they've been driving long enough for what their interactions would have been, because I think they get a little bit more vocal when they're older. So
yeah, so if you're thinking of talking to Ledyard High kids, we could do that separately. You know, that civics class has a whole bunch of actively engaged kids who are interested in community stuff and laws and government and all of that. We could do that separately, and we could ask the civics teachers to help us with that.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm on this whole kick is because I talked with a person that has a lot of experience with this, that I've known for a long time, and we talked for about an hour, and she told me that she organized a conference. I think it was held at Mitchell College. I'm almost positive of that. And in that program, they wanted to engage with students and kids of all ages and ask them what they needed. And by needed, it's, you know, do you need food? Do you need money? Do you need clothing? No, we need knowledge. And they ended up providing a conference with classes, so kids could come to this conference and take classes. In the design, in deciding what to do you know what the kids asked for more than anything else? So I'll read you some of the things. They wanted to know, how do you buy a house? How do you budget? A whole bunch of, how do you get out of poverty? But the biggest one was dealing with loss, grief, and trauma. That's what the kids asked for the most. How to learn how to deal with loss, grief, and trauma, which blew the organizers away. They didn't see that coming, and that's the whole point. If you ask the kids what they want, you get a lot better information.
Well, I would hope the premise would be on some level relative to, well, yeah. So we have a. I'm trying to figure out then if we're gonna reach out. Do we reach out to find, okay, what my thought process is, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this, is that we're trying to address issues that people have with town and town services, and I'm talking about things the town does, and the way they get treated, and such as that, and it goes across all spectrums, be it brown, black, brown, yellow, straight, gay, whatever. So trying to single around one particular topic. That's why, like either the policing or town staff or something of that nature, and trying to figure out how we fall short on those things.
Yeah.
Before we open up to a bigger type event.
Absolutely. And I didn't mean to suggest we should have a conference to help kids deal with trauma and loss. My point was, that's what they came up with when they're asked what they need. In our case, I think we want to say, you know, we need to improve the way the town provides services. We think we should focus on police, social services, and staff, and we need to know how we're successful when we do that. What do you think would be the measure of our success, and what do you think we should be focusing on as it relates to the delivery of town services, not education or anything else?
Yep, I agree. As you do that, what I could do is, because this is, I've heard complaints relative to people who are from the LGBT community had also made some statements and concerns and issues, because it's not just a brown and black issue. You know, it cuts across everybody who thinks they're not who believes they're being marginalized, per se. I'll use that word. Okay. So there could be other groups with different perspectives on how they get impacted by those. And as we go through this process, just looking at the police, I'm up for reaching out to, say, you know, the LGBTQ community that's in town, and seeing what their issues were, and trying to find the groups and invite the groups to provide information back to the committee. You know, so that they may all have, as these groups provide information, they may kind of focus down and have like a single thing that's that needs to be addressed. And it may be, and a lot of times people do things that they don't know is offensive.
Correct.
But until
Yeah.
somebody knows until somebody tells somebody that, hey, that's not a nice thing to do, they may not know.
Yeah.
They may not legitimately know. So I'm not sure if that's something we want to consider doing also. You know, what's your take, Bill and Andra?
Absolutely. I think it's part of our job to educate the town and the people who deliver services and ourselves on things that happen, things that people say, things that people do that offend, insult, intimidate, and otherwise, you know, unintended consequences. I think we need to educate ourselves on those things. We as a community do.
Yep. Andra?
So I again, my very practical brain. I'm thinking, where do people go when they've had a negative experience?
So,
Right. So, you know, I was just clicking around the town website and I don't see a complaint form. And I think that would be a very simple thing to add to the website to invite people as one place to make their complaint.
yes. And I think in that case, I think it wouldn't be, if they're making a complaint and they give enough information and meet to the complaint, they don't have to call people out by name, but just the basis of the complaint. So there's enough so somebody can go and actually investigate and figure out how do we, you know, where is it going wrong in the process. I think you could do something like that without somebody having to tag their name to it, because I know that's going to be the big thing that scares a lot of people. They don't like saying, yeah, I want to make a complaint. As you're older, I don't mind making complaints about anybody. You know, I'm 57 years old. I don't care anymore. But somebody who may be in their 20s or 30s may be concerned. Their perspective is a little different. Their perception is a little different. So I love the idea of having someplace somebody can go and post a complaint or a concern or something that they have an issue with that's really available. That can be kind of vetted out. Doesn't make it 1,000.
To be clear though, like a town issue, not like,
right.
You know, my neighbor's kid is riding the skateboard down the street and I don't like it. I don't mean like that, but.
Nope. I'm thinking it's the complaints coming in because something that the town has done or the town is doing. Because if it isn't related to town government, we don't really have much control.
Right. That's it.
You know, we can cajole people and try and convince them with words, but there's no muscle behind the words. We can put muscle behind the stuff that the town does, that we can control the town from the town council perspective when it gets to the town council. So I'm right with you on that. No.
We do have a kudos and complaint form on there. It's just not, yeah, we do. It's just not tailored for what this committee, I believe, is seeking. So I couldn't direct you to it because we do receive them. And so MIS receives them. Whatever department it applies to receives the complaint form, and then I receive one too. And kudos too. I mean, we had one last week for something that some public works employees did. So we do get them, but we could probably tailor one for this need because it's a little bit different.
Well, I don't think it is, Fred. And the reason I say I don't think it is if someone's making a complaint on how services are provided or has a concern about, wouldn't that be a great place to go? Granted, we as a committee may say, okay, when those complaints come in, if it's a well, yeah, it depends on the type of complaint though. Because if you're complaining about a particular action that took place, is it really a policy issue or is it somebody was doing something that you just didn't like? So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then the complaint, you have to think about whether is the complaint something that is a legal actionable item. Is it just because something that comes to town, like the example I gave you of, oh, the public works guys did a great job, thank you, Jerry. That's different. But what about a complaint form that comes in that actually warrants police activity or something beyond? So
yeah, I agree. It would need to be crafted carefully. And with, it's kind of like when you call your doctor's office and you get the voicemail, you're like, if this is an emergency, hang up and call 911. The complaint form might actually need a disclaimer like that. Like if this is going to require legal action, call the police or call your whatever. But I think, it was a few weeks back, a resident called me because they had a frustration and they didn't even know who to talk to at town hall. They were willing to go, but they didn't even really know where to start. So they started with somebody they know. And I think we could do a better job of just regular education, even if that's using the Ledyard resource page or using the mayor's Facebook page, just kind of little public service tidbits, letting people know what they can do on the website, that they can issue a complaint on the website, introduce them to what the town planner does, so that they know, introduce them to the assessor, so they get to understand who the players are in the town government, who does what, where can they go with their questions, concerns, frustrations.
And Mary led up the Know Your Town. Was that last year that we did that, Mary? It was Know Your Town, and that
It was last
included
year.
all of those. Yep, included
year.
all the departments. Yep.
Yes, it did. And all the department heads came and spoke. So they saw the face of the person, responsible.
Yeah. How I went to one of those. How well attended was that?
They were not well attended. And we did a lot of advertising, but they were just not well attended. I'd say no more than 10 people. We did get a good crowd at the police station. We had a nice talk by Chief Rich, and then a tour of the facility by one of the officers. That was pretty good. And we did go to the Nathan Lester house, and I was really sorry we didn't. I think that's where you were, Andra. We didn't get more people because it really is a very nice town resource. And so we didn't get a lot of people, not as many as I would have liked. But it was out there.
So back to the complaint form or employee kudos. That's something that the IT committee developed 10 years ago. And for all the time we've been talking about this, I can't find it. I know it's there somewhere.
Yeah,
but
and
I can't find it.
I can't find it either, and I've used the search box, and I even typed kudos in, Fred. It's a kudos form.
That was my term.
Oh, I thought you actually meant it was a.
No, because the form wasn't necessarily tailored to be, if you have bad things to say, please let us know. It was, hey, if there's something good that happened, please let us know. And if there's something that wasn't so good, please let us know. So it was designed to say, hey, we welcome the onions and the orchids.
So it's called the onions and orchids form.
Don't search that one either.
Yeah, but I to be serious though, there's a balance between making space for people who are frightened or feel vulnerable to make an anonymous complaint. The other side of that though is the right of the accused to know their accuser. So there's a sensitive space there. If somebody has a complaint about me, I want to know, who, what did I do? So I don't want to set up a system where people feel like they can just go on the town website with, total anonymity and just fire off slander, like let's just say they have, they've had a bad experience and they actually now just want to create a problem. I'm not interested in that, but but there does need to be a place where we can direct people.
I agree, Andrew. I think in my head, when I think about a complaint form relative to what this committee, I'm not so much married to the idea of having a name attached to it. I'm more married to the idea is what was the issue that they had, because it may not be a policy issue. Okay, if it's not a
Right.
policy issue, then
That's right.
I don't think we address it. If it's not a policy issue, we don't address it. That's something, you know, we could put back on. We could respond. Maybe something we could respond back when someone puts in a anonymous complaint and says, "Hey, such and such an officer was not nice to me," or whatever. Saying, okay, the response to that is, please put a formal complaint in with the town concerning the employer, the event that took place. It's not a policy issue. We're trying to take care of policy issues that impact people unfairly, you know. And people, like you said, people are going to have a bad day. It could be great for 364 days out of the year. You come in that one bad day when everything's gone wrong for them, and they're a little snippy. And since that's the one time you meet them, you know, they get a pass, in my opinion. So, but that would be a town issue relative to personnel. But that's when you got to put your name to it. If you want to call somebody out for bad behavior, or versus you're not allowed to, I'll use the food bank, for example, because it's just a simple one that's out there already. You're not allowed to get food. Then the question becomes, okay, give me the background of why you don't, what happened. Well, I came to get food. They asked where I lived. I told them, they said I couldn't get it. And then it's just a question of finding out, okay, what's the policy? The policy is, and there's some disagreement going on, is that if it's a food issue and you live on the reservation, then you go to the reservation. If you're not a taxpayer to the town of Ledyard, you don't use the services related to that. If that's the policy. And I don't think that's an unreasonable policy if that's the policy. You know, but then if somebody makes a complaint about something happening in that fashion, I don't think it's something we need to fix if it's a policy that is a fair and prudent policy. But it, you know, it can be vetted, but it just so
I think we're getting into the weeds a bit.
Yeah.
Again, while we're talking, I'm finding complaint forms for shut off with the WPCA. I found one for Ledyard Police Department. I know we have that employee compliment form. I still can't find that. Here's my point. Those things are already there and people aren't using them. So back to our mission and our method, one of the things we said was to inform or educate ourselves. I think we have to be more proactive. I would hate for our committee to have as a work product, we created a form. Because that isn't going to get it done. The people who are complaining on social media and in protest about how they think they have received injustice or experienced injustice, they're going to fill out forms. So one of the things we can do is, as elected officials, and I think should be doing, we don't have to, but I think we should, is reach out to people who complain. I'm on Facebook all the time when people complain about speeding, and I say, call Ledyard Police. Here's the number. Quit complaining here. And I kind of get in a little bit of trouble for that. But in other cases, I do reach out to people privately through private message, and I say, you know, tell me more about this. Or I, you know, somehow get in touch with them. I email them or otherwise. And my point is, I think we have to be proactive. And that's why I want to talk to the kids and learn about their experiences by talking with them, as opposed to being passive and saying, let us know what's going on out there, folks. That's the problem I have with forms.
No, that's a valid point.
Yep.
The best choice is always to talk to people if you get them to talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't. I mean, the whole thing around food, provision of food and other services, when one of those complaints first surfaced on social media, one of the counselors was the first person to reach out and say, hey, tell me more. And, you know, that didn't go very far. So, okay, at least there was an attempt. But you have to go after people in ways that they're comfortable. And again, so that's why I say I think we have to educate ourselves and then address the issues that they tell us about.
I concur.
Agree. And I don't want to suggest that posting a complaint form on the website will solve everything. I just think it's sort of
I know.
low-hanging
I know.
fruit to create a space that we can, as a maintenance issue, actually constantly remind people that that's a place they can go.
Yep.
Absolutely. I honestly didn't even know that employee compliment thing was working, because as far as I knew, we put it up 10 years ago and got like one. I didn't know we actually get those. So thank you, Mayor.
We get 3, maybe 4 a month.
That's pretty good. Cool.
Okay, moving this along a little bit. We talked. Okay, so going back to the objectives and goals, which is very hard. It's very tentative. It's very hard to wrap your hands around this part. So it really, if we go, as we've been discussing, trying to meet with the with Lauren and company, and reaching out to other entities that we can find within the town, and get feedback on their issues, on what they see are problems with how the state, not the state, but the town delivers the services. Would that be the goal? The goal is to find out those issues. Wow. Okay. So the goal here is people have complained, have lodged concerns about three things in general. And so a goal would be to educate them. I've got a list here. Hold on for a minute. I wrote down some goals. Bear with me.
Okay.
Now, the question I have on the goal side of that is, I'm going to look at policing, because that one is just, that to me, that's low hanging fruit. It's either policing or the other part with the food bank, but the policing is low hanging fruit because of the environment we're in. So that being said, the goal there, I think, is to, I know we want to educate, and we talked about this. We want to educate the residents on the services and how those services are provided by the police department. Would that be a safe thing to say?
Yeah, we have that up above, though, as one of the methods to inform citizens. Number 10, to inform citizens about practices, policies, training, certification, procedures currently in place in town government.
Yes.
So we have that as a method, not as a goal. So again, I'm wanting to ask the kids to help us with goals and measures of success. So what I'm offering to do, if you guys are okay with this idea, is reach out to them and try to set up meetings with them and schedule them on their turf, their time.
I'm up for that, Bill. But I would also like to reach out to other entities within the town. That I'd been on one of the social media platforms and saw some comments by some people in the community that they weren't too happy, but I'm not sure I couldn't ascertain if they weren't happy about the town service side of it or just maybe neighbors. Okay, so
Okay, yeah.
I was going to reach out to them and just ask them how they thought the town itself was as far as the services the town of Ledger does. Was there anything they see that, maybe their interaction with police officers, staff, is there something that makes them feel that they're not being taken seriously? And just to get an idea to see what they see as a problem. And it may, talking with Lauren and company, it may circle back to the same type of thing.
Yep.
If you guys are agreeable to that, I'll reach out to them.
To these other folks you just mentioned?
Yes.
Sure. And maybe that's something else we can do, is put out some kind of an invitation to people to come talk with our committee.
Yes.
Some won't. We know that.
Yep.
But if others are willing to come and you know, we could go to them too.
Yep. Hopefully they're all in town.
Yeah.
So then moving on to the next part, community workshops. I would be safe to say we're done with that one, guys, for now.
Well, the community workshop is, that's kind of what I transitioned into with a field trip, but I still think we should have a community workshop where we, during the day or an evening, we invite people to talk with us online like we are now.
Yes.
So a workshop is not a meeting with an agenda. It's publicly posted where only the counselors talk. It's a meeting where anybody can talk, and it's give and take.
I agree. Given this COVID environment we live in, the only way to make contact with people are going to be mostly through this venue that we have in front of us that we're using now.
Yep.
For large groups of people, because if you've got a large group, you're very limited where you can go. And being able to pull something off, doing it, because you still have to, on a workshop, you still have to notice it.
Right.
But it'd be just more of an open, free flow of discussion.
Correct.
Now, I would be up to seeing if we could schedule something for the next. Well, that would be separate from the next meeting, because could we do the workshop separate only for the purpose of do the workshop potentially? Our next meeting is in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks? Is in 2 weeks. So trying to try and schedule something prior to that or after our next meeting. Because we meet the second and the first and third Wednesday of the month. Am I correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, we want to pick one of those nights. It's scheduled after this next meeting so we can nail down the mission statement and have that part done. So
Okay.
next meeting we clean out the mission statement. We put a fork in it, and then the following meeting we have a workshop planned.
The same night or the next meeting, Mike?
Well, how would you want to do that? Would you want to do it for a different night, or do it as a meeting night?
I'd rather finish the mission statement at a meeting and be done. I wouldn't want to then have a workshop because I don't think we'd get participation. We're starting at 6:30, and you know it would be 7:30 or 8, and we'd be asking people to show up. I don't think they would come.
No, sorry about
So
that.
I'd rather do the following meeting. So in 2 weeks we have a regular meeting, finish the mission statement, and 2 weeks later we have a workshop. That
was what I thought I was putting across. So the next meeting we can finish out the we can finish out the mission statement, and at the following meeting we'd have a workshop scheduled, and we do it on the same day that we would have had a committee meeting.
I like that idea.
Okay, that way we don't pick up another meeting. You both have a ton of other work. So putting more on a plate on another day, taken away from our families, is a lot to ask. So, and the other part is it would reinforce the fact, since we're meeting every other week, that hey, you know what? If there's going to be a committee meeting concerning the workshop, it's going to fall on one of these days typically. As we move forward, that's just a thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So then that being said, can we schedule a workshop for,
16.
that would be the first, this would be the 7th of October? Does that seem correct? Because the 16th would be the next meeting for the committee.
Yeah.
And that gives people enough time. It's a month. And we can get it out there. They can see it. We'll get the notice out early, and get it out on social media that, hey, it's a workshop where we want people to come and talk. Will the system handle the number of people that may call in?
I don't think we're going to see that many, but Roxanne, do you know, or Fred, do you know what our limit is?
Yeah, this one's limited to 100 participants.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see more than 100.
Yeah.
Be a nice problem to solve.
So,
It might be good at some point if we're going to do workshops. Well, it might be good to schedule one during the day at some point. If we
Yeah.
could pull it, I think we'd get a different group of people.
okay, yeah.
Totally agree.
And,
Yeah.
and possibly if we could swing it, possibly the same workshop topic for an evening time slot and also a daytime slot.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm definitely agreeable to that.
I know that's a lot. It's a lot on us, but I think especially early on, like if we were to ask our residents what it would look like to see if we're successful on these topics, what will that look like? What will our success look like? I think, the students will have some insight, but our residents will too. The adults.
Yep.
Not that the students, I feel like I'm so on edge because I feel like everybody's so bullying and just picking every single word apart, parsing every single word and assuming the worst. But I just think we'll get a different crowd of people and different insight from different age groups, different experiences, different demographics. And if we can throw the net wider, it will benefit everybody.
I
Totally
agree. Would there be a desire to try and do it on the same day? Is that what you're saying, or doing it within the?
Not necessarily the same day, but within the same general time frame on the same topic, so that we're gathering that batch of information and we can process it all, in the same time.
Okay, would it be? I know it's a lot to ask. So when we do one in the evening, which you already are set up for, but then doing one during the day, do we want to have it like within 4 or 5 days of the evening one, or
Yeah, I would think
within the same
if we
week
could
if possible?
if we could pull it off within the same week, I think that would be ideal.
Okay.
I'll be good with that. Yeah.
So what I'll do is for scheduling, just looking at the month of October, since this workshop would take place in the 7th of October.
Yeah.
You guys have anything on the 8th of October?
I can swing that.
Well, this one will be during the day. So actually, you know what? Everything's in play. So why don't we, whatever day is the best day, if anybody has particular days, because any day during the week, let me say it's on the 10th. So yeah, so any day we could do it on the Tuesday or Thursday, the day before, day after.
So
That's fine with me.
I usually have calls on Thursday afternoon, but my mornings are wide open.
So we could, is there a preference to do, would we be better served to do it in the afternoon on like on a Tuesday, or do it during the morning?
We don't know. We're
Yeah,
guessing.
Yeah.
But so let's try it. Really, the worst thing that happens is nobody comes.
So how about we do it on the 8th, 10 o'clock?
Sure.
Work.
Let's try it. 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock on the 8th. 10 a.m. Okay, and those are perfect days for workshop. Thank you, everybody. So we don't need a motion on it, do we?
No.
I never know.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So that takes care of the workshops. I don't want to, my perspective on the schedule for workshops, just make them fluid as we need it versus setting up a timeline of schedules for just scheduling this one. And then as we move forward, we'll schedule more as needed. Is that agreeable?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay,
I just think some early feedback would be good, so we know what we're aiming at. We might have one target in mind and hear from the residents and realize we are aiming at the wrong thing.
I hate to laugh, but that happens a lot.
I know. I'm married to an engineer. What is the problem? Define the problem. Fix that problem.
Yep. So, number 4, do we have any other old business? I can't think of any.
I don't think
Nope.
so.
Oh,
Oh.
I just want to draw your attention to the document I sent out this afternoon.
Thank
Yes,
you, Bill. Thank you.
you did get that
The,
from
Jan-
Chief Rich. He
Okay,
gave us a
thank you.
copy.
Yeah, good. So it was a joint announcement by the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and the Illinois NAACP. And I thought it had some really good stuff in it that we might be able to borrow and steal for some of our goals.
Totally agree.
Okay,
Yes.
that's it.
So, Roxanne, can you make? I'll give you a copy of that to make it part of the minutes.
I copied Roxanne when I sent it
Yeah,
to you
I
guys.
got,
I saw the +2. Perfect.
It was one of them.
Okay. Is there any new business?
Nope.
Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, sure.
Motion.
Yes, second.
Council Ingalls. I got a second?
Yep.
Second,
Psalm.
Council Psalms. All in
Counselor Psalm says, why not?
all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:42.
Good job, Mike.
Thank you, everybody.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody. Have a good night.
You're doing great, Mike. I know it's hard to run the meeting and oh, he just
I
signed right off.
comfort-
I was
No,
trying to
I'm here.
compliment him and he signed right off.
No, I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here. I feel like the guy in the Who. I'm here. I'm
appeared
here.
from my screen. Oh my
There he is.
goodness.
All right.
I know it's hard to run the meeting and then also manipulate the platform. I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad Mary took over admin. You're doing great.
Kudos to Bill for
Yeah.
being his willingness to post this stuff up. because
Yes,
that
thank you,
helps.
Bill.
Because otherwise,
You're
my
welcome.
mind would be in 3 different places. As I'm trying to, one of my things I always work on, because my engineering brain is trying to keep the head from getting far in front of my thoughts too much, because it takes off like a wildfire.
Yeah,
So
I get it.
that being
And
We don't want you catching fire, Mike.
no.
no,
And everybody remember to say goodnight to Tony the Lurker.
night,
Right,
Tony.
Tony Walker?
Good night, everyone.
Passed out.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.